There's so much racial idolatry in the black church. I'm seeing a church that raised me now destroy people in my view and walk them away from a biblical worldview to a racial worldview. If you wake up and something happens to you during the day and your way to evaluate it is through a racial lens rather than a biblical lens, you're going to be confused.
Well, welcome to our podcast on culture and Christianity. My guest today, I feel like we're old friends. I have read your stuff and listened to you so much. Jason Whitlock, a resident of Nashville, but now you're in the borough. So welcome to Murfreesboro, Jason.
Thank you. Good to be here. I'm actually friends with another pastor in this area, Anthony Walker.
Yes.
Highway 291, or is it 231? 231. He comes on my podcast all the time, and he's been a big supporter of mine and supporter of what I'm doing in the podcast world.
Well, I was excited when I heard you'd moved to Nashville a couple of years ago. And so this just feels like the Lord's timing that we get to sit down and catch up a little bit.
I got to be honest with you, Alan. I started doing homework and it was like, people are like, oh my God, yeah, you and Alan Jackson, you guys think just alike. I've heard people are like, his politics align with yours and his worldview aligns with yours. So and then when I was telling some of my partners at the Blaze that I was coming on this podcast and going to your church, they was like, Allie Beth Stuckey was just there. And I was like, oh my God, these guys know Allie Beth Stuckey and they're fans of hers. We do see eye to eye.
We had Allie B. We just finished a Culture and Christianity conference and Allie was a part of that. And she did not embarrass you.
No, I definitely. I hope I don't embarrass her.
I hope we've got as much courage as she does.
Yeah, well.
She walks out there with that kind of blonde hair and cute smile and then sticks a knife between your ribs, so with the truth.
Yeah. I don't, courage is not something I lack, so I'll hold my own with Allie there.
I would say that is the truth. Your podcast is Fearless.
Fearless with Jason Whitlock. And, we're in an era where we're being controlled by fear and people don't want to stand up and speak the truth. Out of fear, they've designed a culture, a corporate culture, where you're punished if you stick to your biblical values. And so people are going off into workplaces for 8 and 10 hours a day where they have to be a different person out of fear. And so a lot of the stuff that I talk about is just about conquering your fear and remembering that, God will provide. He will be the ultimate provider. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Amen. I don't know when I first saw you, but you was on television and somebody was interviewing you. And you put more Jesus in your response than most pastors I know put in their sermons. And so after that, I started asking Rabbi Google, and I kind of stalked you a little bit. But I'm amazed at your bold faith in an arena where that's not typically normal.
It's authentic. Is what it is. And authenticity is important to me. And so you probably saw me, there was a point where God humbled me and the world humbled me and life humbled me. I'm riding high and having this incredible journalism career. I'm really popular. I got a national television show and, I've been hired by ESPN twice. I've been hired by Fox Sports twice. But in 2013-14, I got humbled in a major way. I was saying, I was in a weird place where I had all these values installed in me as a child from growing up in the church, and my grandmother, Lovey Kennedy, Mama Lovey Kennedy, planted so many seeds in me that for many years, those seeds were in me, but I wouldn't let them blossom. I was out in the world, I was wealthy, and I was famous, and I was stupid. And God had to show me just how stupid I was. And the left really came after me because they could see things I hadn't recognized in myself. Mm. And so there were things that I would write, even as a man of the world. When I look back, I was like, well, that's only God telling me to do that. My values are this way because of the seeds that were planted in me in 25th Street Baptist Church when I was a kid and just the way that I grew up. The left recognized that and said, hey, we can't let this guy ascend to any more power, because one day he's going to wake up and realize exactly who he is. He's a child of God. He was raised that way. And so I was saying Jesus, not knowing I was offending people, not knowing that this was putting a bullseye on my back. And so when they came after me and smeared me and tried to destroy me and ran me out of a job that I had at ESPN, that's when I realized, like, oh, only if I don't get right with God, I'm not going to survive this. And you probably saw me in the aftermath of that in 2014, 15, 16, 17. Anywhere I go and I thought it was appropriate to say Jesus, I was going to say it. And I didn't care. But then as things have become more and more secular, I realized that in that corporate media world, it's just frowned upon. They don't want you. You can talk about God, but they really don't want you talking about Jesus. And they really don't want you to go too far with that conversation and pointing out, like, hey, the reason why things are this way is because we've walked away from our biblical principles and values. And so in 2020, I made a decision to walk away from corporate media, start my own media company where, you know, I could answer to myself and answer to God. And so I really do like saying Jesus and talking about Jesus because it's real for me.
Yeah, me too. But you live in the sports world, or have lived in the sports world, and it seems to me that there is an authentic faith in a lot of those athletes, those professional athletes, even though it's not particularly welcome. But it seems to give you a camaraderie with a lot of those people.
It does, but many of the athletes, they got golden handcuffs on as well. And most of them want to be closeted Christians. And you don't find it. I don't know if you've been following the news cycle with this Harrison Butker, the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Who knew homemaker was such an explosive term?
Yeah, yeah. But he's just letting it rip. And it's been amazing. You know, I guess I can say this, but it's I can say this because she's been publicly, but the wife of the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs reached out to me today, just thanking me for supporting Harrison Butker. And again, I lived and worked in Kansas City for 16 years. So these guys, Latavia Hunt and Clark Hunt, these guys have known me for a long time. But they're rallying around the Chiefs ownership. They're supporting this guy. And you know, I think those of us as Christians, even if we're not Catholics, but anybody that's quoting scripture and anybody that's standing on biblical principles, I'm going to support. And he's doing that. And I love to see it. And I hope it inspires some of the other athletes, not just to thank Jesus after a victory, but go out there and be a tad bit divisive, you know, speak that truth and shake people up the way Harrison Butker has.
Well, you don't have to be divisive. If you stand up for a biblical worldview in the current culture, they start sticking labels on you, which makes you divisive. Yeah. But if you've been living under a rock or haven't been paying attention to the news, the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs spoke at a Catholic graduation ceremony and really just highlighted a biblical worldview and then expressed appreciation for his wife and mother of his children as being a good homemaker. And social media and the press and the NFL has lost their minds, suggesting he be fired. I mean, it's more than a little ironic to me that Colin Kaepernick became a hero by protesting our nation, and this Kansas City Chiefs guy is a pariah because he called his wife a homemaker.
Most people believe you can have it all. And that's the biggest fallacy in the world. You can't have it all. Life is a series of choices that all have consequences. And not everything is for everybody. And that's what we've convinced people, that everything's for everybody. And that's why a gay man will say, well, marriage is for me. And I'm like, well, how can that be? God created it. He told you what it is. So it's not for you. So don't do it. And I crack jokes. I'm not always this serious, but I'll say to people like, I would love to wear size 32 jeans. They're not for me, so I don't put them on. Not everything's for me, so I don't do it. And I'm glad that I had enough sense that when I was more worldly and more immoral, I was smart enough to know, hey man, you can't take this kind of immorality into a marriage. You can't lie to a woman and promise her you're going to be monogamous and all of these other things when you have no intention of doing that. And so I give myself enough credit for saying I had enough common sense to say, I'm not, that's not for me. In the current mindset I'm in, marriage isn't for me. And so we've created this belief that everything is for everybody, and it's just not true.
Well, I've listened to you talk a little bit about sacrifice. Yeah. And I think that is such a valuable message because nobody wants to make a sacrifice. And the truth is, all the best things in life are on the other side of sacrifice.
There's no question about it. And people, there's all these things, and that's again what my men's conference this year is about sacrifice and all the things that stand in the way of sacrifice, cowardice, your sexual perversion, lack of gratitude. When you don't wake up every day like, oh my God, look what Jesus did. This is unbelievable. I get an opportunity today to be a better person. But when you wake up entitled, thinking about what the world owes you, well, man, if my ancestors weren't slaves, my life would be better. If I'm a woman and if I had been born a man, my life would be better. This sense of entitlement, that all of this stuff and sex, this is what I had to realize. If I wanted to speak these truths that were planted in me, I had to get righteous, because if my sexual immorality was something they could hold over my head, that's why all these Hollywood celebrities and influencers and people on TV, they're all compromised. They're all living very unrighteously. They've all been, not all, but they've been compromised in a Jeffrey Epstein or Diddy type of way where they have dirt on them, and so they're afraid to speak the truth. If you're a man and you have a second family, you're married and have a second family somewhere, you're not in position to speak truth because you're so afraid someone's going to call you out on your immorality. You sit quietly. So, I call them sacrifices, but they're really not sacrifices. It's just about, hey, you need to get in obedience to God so you can stand on these truths so that you can protect a culture and a way of life that's best for your kids. And so I look at adults, and I mostly talk about men, because if we do the right things, women will follow us. But if we're not willing to make sacrifices for our kids and the next generation, shame on us. And we need to burn in hell. And whatever happens to us, whatever president they send us, we deserve Joe Biden because we've been cowards and we haven't sacrificed. And so the leadership that we get, people get upset. Like, these guys are all immoral. They're all cheating and making money, and they've sold out to China. That's a reflection of us. We're so immoral. We have immoral leaders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the leaders we have are a reflection of our hearts. But the opposite of sacrifice is indulgence. And what I hear you describing is we've all chased indulgence. We want freedom to do what we want, when we want, the way we want, and we won't allow anybody to put boundaries on us.
Pleasure.
And
pleasure. We think life is about pleasure.
It's an idol. It doesn't make us happy.
Yes. And again, when you think about if your whole life is built around pleasure, that's how you get into this mindset of do what thou wilt, whatever feels good to you. We've built a world based around feelings. A man will say, I feel like a woman. And then they want us to change all the rules of society to fit what he feels. And that's not rational. It's unsustainable. It's illogical and not to offend anybody, but it's a feminine worldview. Women are a bit more controlled by their feelings and emotions, and that's why God gave leadership to men, And we have to say, hey, we can't build a world based on feelings. It's going to lead to this kind of chaos that we have right now. Our kids are less educated than it perhaps any time, certainly in my lifetime, and probably longer. They're more immoral. They're more sexually active at an earlier age. They're trying all kinds of different sex acts, and again at an earlier age, because the whole culture is telling them to listen to our music, and it's so demonic, and we're celebrating and loving it and looking up to these people. It's crazy, and so we have to sacrifice and get in alignment and in obedience. You know, you ministers say it all the time, but everybody wants the Savior. No one wants the Lord. And no one wants to be told what to do. Well, he's told us what to do, and it's all great advice.
And it's not up to us. And we're going to give an account for it one day, which should put the fear of God in all of us. I want to take a minute and talk about your conference, because that's really what got the opportunity for us today. You're hosting a conference in Nashville, June the 1st, called Roll Call 2.0. Tell us a little bit about it.
Roll Call, this is the second one. The first one was last April. And it's a annual men's summit that I do, built around my podcast, Fearless, and the Fearless Army. And so we have a roll call of men. This year, last year was great, but this year I wanted to take it up a level. And it's me and John Rich, the country singer. We've partnered together. We're not ministers, but for me, I can speak for myself, and I can speak for John. John's father was a minister. He's still alive.
You both tell the truth.
Yeah, we both tell the truth. But what we want to do is we want to be an asset for ministers. I'm hoping one day someone will say, man, Jason was like Barnabas. That's my goal in life. And so we're John Rich, white guy, me, black guy. We're trying to bring believers together and put aside this racial differences deal. You and I were talking before this podcast about your journey with Christ and your family's journey with Christ and how it started in your small home and a group of misfits coming together to talk about God. That's what I'm trying to do on a larger scale, to get black and white believers to realize we're not enemies. We're actually allies, and we got to move past the superficial difference of skin color. That's a trick of the devil. That's a trick of the secular and the leftists. And so with John with music and me with my connections to athletes and speakers, John's brought some of his friends, John Cooper from the Christian rock band Skillet, Jeffrey Steele, who's a songwriter and singer in Nashville of legendary status. Those guys are going to sing. I got a couple other friends of mine, Tamara Conrad, she's a great singer. I'm not supposed to say his name because he was on The Voice, but Tay Lewis, I call him the Michael Jackson of country music. He's going to sing. And then we brought in, Vodi Bakum.
He's not shy.
Yeah, he's not shy. He's a heck of a speaker, and he's a heck of an evangelist. E.W. Jackson, if you've never heard him, you'll be blown away. This guy's got a story, his own personal history and his walk with Christ and just his walk as an Black American. It's an amazing story. Alan, you have agreed to lend us your voice as well. We're looking forward to that. Anthony Walker, who I mentioned earlier, but also Mark Robinson, who's going to be, I believe, the governor of North Carolina. He's the lieutenant governor right now. He's running for the governor's office in November.
He's been courageous.
Yeah, he's been real courageous. I honestly think in 2028, he may be a presidential candidate. He's coming in. Vince Everett Ellison, I don't know if this guy's a prolific writer and author, and he's writing some really bold stuff about how did we get to this mindset that our rights come from government and not God. It's the craziest thing, but people believe that. And his argument it's the 1964 Civil Rights Act, that it's Martin Luther King, who's an idol, that Martin Luther King manipulated or in cahoots with Marxists, that 1964 Civil Rights Act, it did some good things, but it left a legacy where it's kind of replaced the U.S. Constitution. Mm-hmm. And it's made people believe that the government holds our rights, not that they were given to us by God. And it was first time I heard him make this argument, my mouth dropped to the floor. I said, that's exactly it. Why didn't I think of that? This is brilliant. That is the problem. There are people that believe, hey, man, God is in control and he's sovereign, and that's where my rights come from. And then there are people that believe, no, the government. And Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, they tell me what my rights are. And if they say put a mask on and don't go to church, that's what I'm going to do. Even though God said, no, I gave you an immune system. I designed you perfectly. I told you to go to church and fellowship. But and so for me, it's a very personal issue because, quite frankly, Alan, there's so much racial idolatry in the Black church. I'm seeing a church that raised me now destroy people in my view and walk them away from a biblical worldview to a racial worldview. If you wake up and something happens to you during the day and your way to evaluate it is through a racial lens rather than a biblical lens, you're going to be confused. And you're going to think when Rachel Maddow gets on MSNBC and says, well, the LGBTQ, it really affects Black people. And, Black LGBTQ people face the most discrimination, and Black trans people. If you have a racial worldview, you'll hear that and go, yeah, the LGBTQ, they're my allies. And transgender, they're my allies. You come out of the biblical worldview, it's like, the transgender needs some mental help. And I've told you this homosexuality is an abomination. So, but people are being so blinded by race, and they're using that as a ploy to get you to think that America is evil and that its founding principles are evil. That too many people are waking up thinking, have I done, Black people, I'm talking, and some Black people that call themselves Christians, if the actions frustrate white male evangelicals, it's a good thing. And instead of like, well, hold on, do these actions align with God and my values? We've been tricked. We think we're at war, a racial war, and we're not. We're in a battle of good versus evil. We're in a battle, the patriarchy versus the matriarchy. This stuff is straight from Genesis. Same battle's been going on forever.
It's not a new game plan, but it's invaded and permeated our academia because critical theory, with its Marxist underpinnings, puts us all in terms of oppressed. And then it adds to the race to add to the division. And we hate one another and we stop working together and we kill our productivity and our effectiveness. I think the racial discussion is more difficult today than at any time in my lifetime. Because there was a point in time where the moral authority for the whole racial discussion came from Scripture.
Yes.
And we'd made mistakes and there was wrong. And we had to find a way to ask for forgiveness and start to bring some healing. But we have moved so far away from that.
Alan, think about this as well. And this is part, because I talk about this all the time. The racial issue in America, the Black American journey in America is what made America so great. If we go back to Richard Allen, who founded the AME Church in like the 1700s. Black Americans demanding that our founding fathers and politicians, hey, you got to live up to these things you promised in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution. That's what compelled America to be great and to live up to those biblical ideas. And then so when it came to segregation, the argument was like, hey, this isn't consistent with this Bible. You have to correct this. And so America did. And so I try to argue and tell African Americans, Black people, like, we're what made this country great. sticking to this Bible and calling America to live up to these values in the Bible is what made America great. And you don't want credit for that? You want to run around and pretend like, well, I didn't have nothing to do with that, or, this country's evil. You're taking a dump on your ancestors who sacrificed amazing things so that I could be free, so that I could drive to Murfreesboro and sit down with Alan Jackson and have a nice conversation in his beautiful church. And I just can't throw all their sacrifice away because some Marxist opportunists have said, there's victory in victimhood. And that's the other thing. A Christian that's a victim? How? On what basis? It's an impossibility. So you have to ask yourself, are you a Christian? Because you can't be a Christian and a victim.
Mm-hmm. That is so good. If we choose the role of a victim, we've said the cross wasn't enough. Because that's the place that we're all redeemed. Or it wasn't effective.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not familiar with Jason Whitlock, you need to be. His podcast, Fearless, is a blessing to me. And he is sponsoring a conference in Nashville, June the 1st at Rocketown.
Yeah. I almost forgot to go to fearlessarmyrollcall.com, fearlessarmyrollcall.com. Use a promo code with the word fearless, all lowercase. Tickets are $150. If you use the promo code fearless, it's $100. We'd love begging you to come. It's going to be amazing. The music, the speakers, the food. It's going to be amazing and fun. We'll be done, I think, around 4:30, 5 o'clock starts. And I haven't even rattled. We got athletes and coaches that are coming in. If you're into sports or not, you'll meet a lot of cool people. I've been amazed. There's people that are trying to come that if they do, people will be like, oh my God, this guy came, and his connections to mainstream corporate media. But I think a lot of men have had enough. And they want to come out of the closet. Because again, as Christians, we have to now, we've been stuck into a closet. We got to come out of the closet. And I think enough are frustrated and
everybody
inspired.
else came out of the closet and we went in.
Yes.
That's the truth.
And so they're looking at Harrison Bucker. They're looking at what we're doing with Fearless and the people that have been coming on my show, and that people are getting inspired. Let's come out of the closet. And if they can be out of the closet, we can too.
All right. If you're listening to this and you're in Middle Tennessee especially, don't miss this. We just had a conference here on our campus, Culture and Christianity, and so many people reached out to me and said, I didn't know. I wish I could have been there. This is better. June the 1st, it's a Saturday in Nashville at Rocketown. Jason will be there, but there's a whole host of other really talented, bright, courageous people participating. John Rich is coming, but don't hold that against him. If we hang out with John, he's going to get it figured out. But it truly is an opportunity. Nashville needs a little bit more Jesus. I've been in Nashville longer than you have, and this used to be the center of Christian publishing. It was the Southern Baptist Sunday School Board headquarters building, was one of the tallest buildings downtown. Now we got wagons filled with inebriated young women screaming at the people on the street, and they're being heckled from the bars. It's not the Nashville that I remember. We need some Jesus in Nashville. So June the 1st, let's be there with Jason Whitlock and help make this happen. It's important for our city, and it's important for our nation.
It's funny, Mitch, I live right downtown, and it's amazing. I live on the 19th floor of my 19-story building, but you can hear everything. And I don't know if the windows or whatever aren't as good as they need to be, but you can hear everything. And so I hear the party vans, and a lot of them play rap music that's filled with cursing and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, how did we get here to where you can be driving down the street and people are dancing to music that's MF this and B word this and all this? How did we get here? And that's, I look at, did you see this video of Diddy, the rap mogul? And I used to listen to rap music. I was always a critic of it, though. and always pointing out, but I can't, that's not much of a defense. I always knew what it was, but I listened to it. And then in the past 5-6 years, I just started filling myself up with so much gospel music that I've poured so much of that in that there's just no room for rap. I can't, when I hear it now, I hear it in context and I hear every word of it and I go, holy cow. And so I just don't listen to it anymore. But I'm just asking people to look at what Diddy is about and did, and then go listen to the music. We should not be surprised. Anybody that's making pornographic, violent, prison culture music, no one should be shocked that he would treat a human being and a woman like a pet, like something he owned and had no real respect for. And that is that culture. And we have to, as believers, if we're pouring the right stuff in us, there's just no room for that. And it's, before I hopped on the highway today, I had a big salad because I didn't want to eat any snacks on my drive up here. I didn't want to. And again, that's Alan, because my gluttony is the problem. It's sinful. And I've been correcting it and trying to create, and it's a struggle. But the key is just, you got to pour a bunch of good stuff in you, and then there's no room for the bad stuff. And so if I'm here at church on Saturday, which I'm looking forward to hearing you speak, again, that means I'm not on Netflix or Amazon watching some movie that entertains me, but, because now I'm telling you, I look at the TV shows I used to watch, because I can't watch the new ones, because the new ones are just awful. But even when I go back and look at the stuff I enjoyed 20 years ago, I got new eyes on now, because I'm talking too much about God every day not to see things in perspective. And so, again, I just try to fill myself up with good stuff, and that's why I'm looking forward to hearing you speak tonight. And then I'll hop in my car, listen to some gospel music. I'll be on a high. Time I get home, I'll be like, well, let me fall asleep. No bad stuff got me today.
Hey, win it one day at a time.
Yeah.
Every generation has to make a decision for themselves, and that gives me hope. Because, you're downtown, the Ryman Auditorium, which was the home for the Grand Ole Opry for so long, started as the Nashville Gospel Tabernacle. The largest saloon owner in Nashville got saved. Jason, thank you for what you're doing. And we will see you on June the 1st at Rocketown for Roll Call.
Well, looking forward to hearing from you there. Looking forward to hearing from you tonight.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining me today. Before you go, please like the podcast and leave a comment so more people can hear about this topic too. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to Alan Jackson Ministries YouTube channel and follow the Culture and Christianity podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Together, let's learn how to lead with our faith and change our culture. I'll see you next time.